When God chose to take on our human nature to save us from our sins, he could have just assumed an adult human body and walked into Galilee and begun preaching, and it would have worked. But he didn't do that. Instead, he chose to enter the world the same way we do, to be born of a human mother and raised as an infant into an adult through all the stages of childhood, to go through everything that you and I would go through, so he could identify with us completely. And whenever I think of that, the infant lying in the manger, I like to pause and remember that that infant in the manger is God himself, the author and creator of everything, all existence, all beauty, all wisdom, all goodness, all truth, chose to become an infant and place himself in the care of a human mother and father, and a human mother and father who were very young. The normal betrothal age for a girl at the time of Jesus was 13 years old, and for a boy, 18. So God placed himself at the care of two teenagers. Carefully chosen teenagers, of course, not arbitrary ones, but teenagers nonetheless. Imagine the love of God in doing that, in placing himself at the total mercy of two parents who were just young teenagers at the time. And as Paul VI reminded us in a talk he gave in Nazareth, that in doing so, in God giving himself to a human family, he blessed the family, that the family is now the most important school of all. And I love to remind parents when they come to have their children baptized that your children will learn more from the two of you than they will learn from any and all the other people they will meet in their entire lives. All the rest of the people they'll encounter are not going to teach them as much as they're going to learn from the two of you. You are their most important teachers, and you need to be their best of teachers. And of course, parents largely do take that seriously, and many of you do a good job trying to teach your children right from wrong and how to follow God. And you don't need me to tell you that there are so many things in the world that will contradict that. Voices out there that will teach them to follow all sorts of things other than what God tells us to do. And you know right away, well, you can't lock your kids in their room, and just let them out when they're 18, okay? They'd be ill-equipped socially to live in the world if they don't have interaction with other people. So yes, you know that they have to go out in the world, and ultimately you have to give them their total freedom once they're adults. But you worry very much that everything that we believe that you've taught them is going to go with them. And so that is the challenge of family life. First of all, to make sure that children are open to everything that a parent needs to teach them. And sadly, sometimes I discover there are many parents who just don't teach those important lessons to their children. Sometimes children will grow up and enter into lifestyles that completely contradict what we believe, and the parents are very upset by it. And they say, why did my kid do this or go into that lifestyle? And I kind of want to ask them, I said, well, did you ever teach them our beliefs when they were a child? Did you tell them what we believe, that this lifestyle is sinful, that you must do this and not that? And I said, well, no. And I said, well, why not? Well, the situation never presented itself. I said, well, as parents, you've got to make sure the situation presents itself. Don't wait for them to come to you and talk to them about our moral beliefs, because they may never do so. No, make sure that the conversation comes up from you, age appropriately, but as soon as you think they're old enough to learn some of the different lessons in life and the morals that they need to bring with them, then make sure they know it, because if we don't tell them, they're not going to hear it from anybody else, and the only thing they're going to believe is what they hear from their friends, what they're taught elsewhere in social media and movies and TV shows. And are those the morals we want our children living with? If we don't make the foundation of our moral Christian living, the children are never going to get that anywhere else. So it is imperative that parents take the time to teach the children the truths of what we believe, hoping that when they do go out in the world and hear things that contradict it, which they will know right away to say, wait a minute, no, that's not what my mother and father taught me. My parents taught me something different. And they'll have the ability, at least the knowledge, if nothing else, to hopefully fight that. Never a guarantee, but certainly the one guarantee is if we don't speak about it with them, they will never learn it from anywhere else. So first of all, laying the foundation is important that happen at home. And I'm especially talking today, we can talk about our families at all sorts of different levels, from couples, we have here a variety of families just as I look out at our congregation. Young couples who are, newly married and just expecting their first children, to those of you who are raising children, and some like myself whose parents are now elderly and now we're taking care of them. All of us on this Feast of the Holy Family looking to see what we can do to make our family lives better and the way they're meant to be, with Mary, Joseph, and Jesus to guide us. And remembering, first of all, that Jesus, in making himself a child and giving himself to a mother and father, was obedient to them. And so the first rule, of course, for children is to be obedient to parents because they have a responsibility for you, but also parents then to make sure that you live out your duty to teach them wisely and to teach them the things, as I was saying, that they need to bring with them into the world. And make sure you spend time with them. It sounds like a cliche thing to say, but it is so true today, that one of the biggest problems with family life today is that there's so little time for families to spend together, parents and their children. And one of the biggest obstacles to that has been the loss of Sunday as a day of rest. When I was a boy, stores weren't open on Sunday. There were no sports programs. Nobody had parties on Sunday mornings or anything else. So families were naturally together on Sunday, and we spent time together. But today now, with people going shopping, Sunday has become the biggest shopping day of the week. And now there's sports programs and all these other things going on that compete with family life. And they cut into that cliche term of spending quality time with our children. And I always say quality time is not driving them to gymnastics class or sitting on the sideline watching them play softball. No, quality time is spending time with our children, talking to them, finding out what's happening in their lives. Every night at dinner, I'm even disappointed to hear of a large number of families who don't sit down and have dinner together as a family every night, that something is left on the stove and the kids just help themselves. But I remember my father, when I was a boy, every evening asking us, tell us something you learned in school today. How was your day? Leaving those lines of communication open, showing interest in what's happening in your children's lives, and doing things with them, making special outings for them. When I was a younger priest and used to do a lot more youth work, I would take the kids on outings in teen club and the altar servers and things a couple of times a year, and some of the kids would say, Father, we do a lot more with you than we do with our own parents. I was like, how sad. And it's not like I was doing something every weekend with them, but how many parents were so busy with everything else, they never took their kids anywhere, just took it for granted. So I used to love, in fact, there was one family in one parish I always knew, when they came to the 8 o'clock morning mass, I knew they were going to the Jets game together. And I'd say, you going to the game, father and son? I said, yes. I said, great, root them in, or whatever team it might be and whatever sports season it is. When a parent was taking a kids to a ball game or something like that, I say, fantastic. Parents spending time with their children. In warmer weather, just go to the park, go to a zoo, watch a movie, or even today, with all the toys that the children got for Christmas, sit down with them later, play with them, help them put them together, spend time talking and keeping those lines of communication open. Those are going to be so important as the children grow older, that they know how to come and talk with you, so that if something does present itself, they will not be afraid to sit down and say, Mom, Dad, can I talk to you about something? So parents, leaving those lines open for children, and children, don't be afraid to talk to your parents about what's happening. You might think, oh, I could never tell my parents that. You probably could. Most people, you would be able to share with your parents things you never imagined you could. So little things such as you're worried about your grades. I really have to pass math and I'm having trouble here, Mom. What do I do? Can you help me with this? Or, hey, there's this girl in school I find cute, or there's a boy I like, what could I say? Something like that. Your parents may be able to give you proper advice with that. Or somebody's picking on you and say, this kid is always on my case. Can you help me? What can I say or do? Little things like that that will reassure your parents that those communication lines are open with you. And never shut them down, especially once you become teenagers, where sometimes I see that happens, that all of a sudden kids are very easy to talk with their parents when they're younger, but they reach their teenage years and all of a sudden they seem embarrassed that they have parents. And especially to be seen with their parents in public is like the biggest embarrassment in high school. And I always say to kids, you know what? Your friends have parents too. I say, so don't be embarrassed by the fact that you have parents. Be proud to be out with them, doing an event with them, because if God forbid something should happen and you lose one of those parents, it would destroy you. And those parents can be your best friends if you allow them to. If you keep the lines of communication open and help them know what's going on in your hearts. So often I'll talk to parents who say, I have no idea what's going on in my son or daughter's life. They just don't share anything with me. Make sure you do share things with them. And that will help your parents know that you're taking the values with you when you go out somewhere. As I said, they can't just lock you in your room until you're 18 and send you out. No, you have to go out and mingle with others, and they need to know that what they've taught you is going to stay with you, because that is their biggest fear, that you might follow somebody else who will get you into trouble or something, and you could get not just in trouble with the law or something like that, but you get in a car with someone who's speeding and drinking, and you could get killed. And they have real worries about you, and they can't lock you in your room. They have to let you know that they have to allow you to go out and trust that what they taught you is going to stay with you, and you're going to make the right decisions. And my friends, young people, never ever violate your parents' trust, because if you do, it's going to be extremely hard to win it back. Let me give you a perfect example. Imagine you're a 16-year-old invited to somebody else's birthday party. And you're going expecting it to be a perfectly innocent birthday party like every other you've been to. And while you're at the party, somebody breaks out some alcohol. And right away, you look at this and say, wait a minute, this is not where I was expecting this party to go. I don't like this. I know this is wrong. You might have the guts to stand up and say to them, guys, hey, put that away. That's nonsense. We don't need that. Don't you know the dangers of underage drinking? You might have the strength to stand up to them. I'm told that St. Carlo Acutis did have that strength by his mother's reflections upon him, that he would be the type to stand up and tell young people, no, this is wrong. So if you do have the strength for that, kudos to you. Fantastic. But if not, and you don't think you could ever do that, pick up your phone and call your mom and dad, say, Mom, Dad, come and get me. Well, just come and get me. I'll explain to you later. Come and pick me up. And then go to the host of the party and say, I've really got a bad stomach ache. I think I'm going to go home. And this way you just get yourself out of the situation. Because if you don't do that and say, oh, I don't want to look uncool or whatever, and you stay there and the alcohol is served, and if somebody calls the police and that party is raided, you will be down at the police station and your parents will be called to pick you up, and you will be in as much trouble as the teenagers who brought the alcohol to that party. And saying, oh, well, I only had a little sip because I wanted to fit in, that's not going to go well with your parents, and you know it's wrong. And so if your parents pick you up from the party and you say, hey, it's only 8:30. How come you called me now to pick you up? And you tell them, because somebody brought alcohol out and I want it out of there. Now they will be so proud of you, and they will know they can trust you, that when faced with a situation that contradicts what they have taught you, you will have the strength to say no, and that you will extricate yourself from that as quickly as possible. And understanding what your parents worry about with you when you go out somewhere is such an important part of them. And then even as you're an adult, parents don't cease being parents once you're 18 or 21 or move on or even have children of your own. In fact, usually I notice today that, the grandparents automatically become the babysitters. That I guess nobody hires teenage kids anymore to watch the kids. It's automatically call grandma or grandpa in and I get a free babysitter. But your parents will be there, and you will need them even through the rest of your life as long as they are alive. I still call my father for advice once in a while, even at going on 63 years old, and he's 90. He still can give me advice on things, and I treasure whenever I can call my father and he can help me with something. So today, on this Feast of the Holy Family, wherever our families are in our lives, whether you're just beginning a family or your children are long grown, and maybe now even your children are taking care of you, always pray that each and every day we'll do everything we can to make our families the place where God is known and loved first and foremost, where our moral teachings are taught and defended, and our children know when they go out in the world, when they hear something that contradicts it, to know right away, no, that's not what we believe. And pray each and every day to help our families be the best they can be, and model them always on the beautiful example of our Holy Family of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus. May Jesus Christ be praised, now and forever.